We figured it out! Suck it, Microsoft!
Yeah, guys, almost had to call and offer Bill Gates something, but we managed to get the Microsoft system working with Windows. Who would have known that?
It's not even Windows! What the hell kind of interface was that? We had to format a USB drive from a computer to have it actually record on the freaking Xbox. Like,
this is after having to buy a special USB drive.
yeah, we had to get a USB 3.
Like, is this how they want to keep their games off of YouTube? They just make it virtually impossible to record them?
Anyway, hi guys, it's Chris.
And Gary.
And we're playing Gears of War Ultimate Edition.
So for those of you who don't know, this is a remastered version of Gears of War for the 360, along with some of the content they had to cut from the game. It got released on the PC version 10 years ago, give or take, but it was not on the 360 version, and this is the first chance you got to play it unless you're a PC gamer.
Well, anyway, let's get into it.
Yeah.
So,
right.
What are we talking about here today, Gary?
We are going to talk about specifically war fiction with an emphasis on, the squad level. So we're, when it's like 4 to 10 guys and you get to know all of them and their interactions with each other.
There we go. Okay. So yeah, like starting off, like, I don't know, we're here. We've talked about it a little tiny bit in previous videos, like when we talked about third-person shooters, but not a whole lot. So let's talk about it a little bit more here. Gears of War. This is a franchise that you've always been pretty into, right?
Yeah, I haven't played 4 yet. Just,
Not at all?
Nope, I haven't.
Oh, okay. I thought you at least started it up. I thought you just played the first mission or two.
No, haven't had time. I have a tiny human that is capable of outsmarting anything labeled childproof.
I guess that makes sense.
So what I'm actually starting here, guys, is not the beginning of the game. It's actually the beginning of the new content that wasn't on the 360.
How dare you?
So if you haven't ever gotten to see that, this will be your chance. It actually explains kind of a gap in the continuity that the game had.
So I kind of remember the story very loosely. What was the gap in the continuity? Like, what was the issue exactly?
Well, at the end of Act 4, you're getting chased by a Brumac, and you're in this car.
Okay.
And then at the beginning of Act 5, you're just at a train station waiting on a train.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I do kind of remember that now.
And this deals with you dealing with the Brumac and getting to the train station and why you have to get to the train station. Mm-hmm. So Anya just told you why you have to go to the train station.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, so let's get to some actual war stuff. What's a piece of war fiction that you're really into, whether it's a TV show or a movie or a book or whatever?
Well, I think the most recent one that I really liked was probably Fury.
Oh, Fury was really good. We've talked about Fury on the channel before when we were talking about David Ayer and his hit or miss record, which, I hate to say it, but it's leaning more toward the side of misses now, ever since Bright. But, yeah, Fury was really good, surprisingly good.
Mm-hmm.
That was...
Especially Shia LaBeouf. I mean, he's in it, and it's good.
And there are a lot of actors in that movie, too, that you probably forgot were in that movie. Like John Bernthal was in that movie and was really, really good in it.
Yeah.
He went on to play the Punisher in the Marvel Netflix TV series. But what makes a good piece of war fiction, especially, for example, Fury?
Well, I mean, I think the characters have to be flawed. And I think Fury embraced that. They realized they were damaged human beings.
Yeah, they're all pretty shitty people. But also, not so shitty that you just completely hate them. They're just damaged. I think that was kind of a problem with Bright, was that Ward as a character was a shitty... Excuse me. I am saying bad words for the channel. Oh, hey, you got killed.
Yeah, I forgot how to reload on Gears.
It's the right bumper, right?
Yeah, I was hitting X and A and everything else.
But Ward in Bright was just a bad character. I don't mean written badly or anything. Well, I'll say written lazily. I don't know about badly.
He was a cliche.
Yeah,
it was they pulled him out of some other movie.
Yeah, he was cliche, and he was just unlikable, but had no reason to be unlikable. And he never grew or changed as a character. He just stayed the same from the beginning of the movie to the end, and there was nothing likable about it. Whereas, with Fury, the characters are pretty morally shaky, but you can kind of understand why, and they're still relatively decent people at heart. It's just that, they're in a war zone, and that's a hard thing to deal with. Oh man, I forgot about the shaky cam when you sprint in this game. Oh, hey buddy.
I'm gonna die again.
What difficulty are you playing on?
Casual. I'm just trying to
remember
really? The controls. Like, I can't remember how to hug the wall.
I think it's just A, right?
I tried that. Where is Dom?
Yeah, thanks, man. Oh, that's just such a lovely piece of instrumentation.
Dang it.
Man.
Yeah.
Anyway, Fury was good. I also like that Fury focused on a particular aspect of war that a lot of other movies and TV shows didn't really focus on, and that's mech stuff. So tank. It takes place in a tank, and it's not like the tank is a giant unstoppable piece of iron. There are difficulties with managing it and controlling it and using it to destroy other tanks and all that sort of stuff. What in the world? There was a guy to your left.
Yeah, see, this thing, like, the rest of this game I know like the back of my hand. I've only played through this once.
Yeah.
So I don't know the layout as well as I would like. That's
okay.
But one of the things I really liked about Fury 2 is that, they wanted to be cowards. And,
there you go. They wanted to be cowards? What do you mean?
They wanted to run. Like, when their tank was down and out.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And Brad Pitt had to almost, like, I'm not going to say guilt trip them, but he made them feel bad about leaving. And that's why they stuck around.
Yeah, because if I recall correctly, we're going to spoil Fury here. I mean, obviously they all die at the end because, of course. Well, except for, like, the kid character, but again, of course.
And once again, that was because they kind of sacrificed to save him as, like, kind of their chance to redeem themselves for all the crappy things they've done.
Yeah. And yeah, if I recall correctly, they, like, ran over a mine which incapacitated them. Like, it destroyed the treads on the tank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they ran over a mine which incapacitated them. They're stuck, like, at a literal crossroads that is where a bunch of German forces are going to be going.
Yeah, it's the crossroads they were supposed to be defending.
Yeah. And so they were like, well, we're not going to be able to defend this place in a broken tank. So they were all going to leave, and Brad Pitt was like, no. And they were like, well, you're going to die. And he's like, okay. And then they were like, well, we can't just let you die alone, so here we go.
Yeah, and then the nice thing was at the end of the movie, he's under the tank. He'd gone down to the escape hatch. Uh-huh. And all the Germans are rejoicing that all the Americans are dead. And one guy checks under the tank, I think because his commander told him to, and he sees him.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a really nice moment. So, in the midst of, like, all the North Carolina stuff from a year or two ago when Nazis decided to all of a sudden just be a part of America again, mm-hmm. Remember that? Yeah, that was depressing. People were always like, is there really such thing as a good Nazi? And then, your first instinct is to be like, well, no, of course not. And then I remembered that, like, at the end of Fury, there was that one Nazi troop that spotted the kid hiding under the tank and was like, you know what? I kind of don't want to have any more killing, and just left him. Well, you know what I mean? And that's, like, the one single time that maybe a Nazi had a shroud of dignity. And even then, who knows? That character was never elaborated on. Maybe he was only there because he was going to get shot in the head if he didn't comply. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah. But, that was a nice touching moment to end the film. And that's just that,
and they did a really good job of implying that he was, like, young and mm-hmm. inexperienced, just like the kid. So it was almost like a kindred spirit on the other side.
Yeah.
You say that about, like, a good Nazi, and there's a real-life example of a Luftwaffe pilot who saw, like, a plane, American plane that was in distress. Mm-hmm. And, he got orders to shoot it down, but he didn't think it was honorable. So he didn't. And luckily it was never reported, or else he would have been, like, punished.
Yeah, which, in 1940s Germany was like, if you don't kill the enemy, then we're just going to shoot you in the face.
Yeah.
Have you heard about, what's the test that, like, some psychologist came up with a couple of years ago that was, like, again, I forget what it was called, but it was something, the basis of the experiment was that he was making people press a button, but when they pressed the button, they heard the sound of somebody like crying out in pain in another room.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was like, okay, but you need to press this button. And the whole thing was like, how far are they going to go? And it was supposed to be an experiment to like kind of determine the people who, the Nazis who killed people in World War II, were they really just being told what to do, or were they making the conscious decision to kill people? Because the whole thing was that, like, as soon as they were told that they were going to kill somebody, like, virtually everyone just said, no, I'm not going to do that.
Well, I think you might, if it's what I'm thinking of, it's actually, what they found was if they had a doctor telling them to press the button,
yeah,
they would actually kill the person.
Oh, okay, yeah, so I remember, what was it? There was something like, there were three, I forget the terminology. There were three, like, tests or, like, points, I guess, that they were testing people. The first was, like, the sound of somebody in pain.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the whole thing was, like, will you continue to press the button? Usually people were like, yes, because, this is a test and you need to do it. The last thing was... But the very last thing was, you need to press this button because I'm telling you to do it. You have to. And the whole thing was that as soon as they were like told that they didn't have a choice, that was when they were like, no, now I really don't want to press the button. But I almost feel like, because it was frickin' Nazi Germany, there should have been like a fourth point, and that was to where the doctor would say, you need to press this button or I'm going to kill you and your family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then at that point, like, are you really going to, like, that pressing that button is going to kill that man. But it's either you press that button and kill that man, or you and your family dies.
Yeah.
Because, again, that legit happened in Nazi Germany. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that part was never actually tested. And I feel like the psychology of that would be kind of an interesting thing to study.
Yeah. I mean, but moving back on to another...
Yeah, we've talked about Nazis enough here.
Yeah.
So,
well, I was going to move. Let's knock out the rest of the World War II things we have. Which another one we have is Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan is such a touchstone of cinema. It is undeniably a classic. Fantastic film, well done. However, one of the things that kind of bugs me was that was the first film to really, really popularize and integrate shaky cam. And it kind of became a touchstone of action cinema after that. And I'm not going to say that it was for the better. You know what I'm saying?
They got overused.
Yeah. It just became like a tool for lazy filmmakers. Mm-hmm. They were just like...
Want to create confusion?
Yeah. Yeah, we need it to be really exhilarating and fast-paced and crazy. So, yeah, shaky cam.
Yeah. But I think, that was almost... for lack of a better term, the first realistic-looking war movie. Mm-hmm. At least set in World War II times, maybe. But I think it was, just the scale of it was so huge. Mm-hmm. Like, the D-Day landings gave, veterans of D-Day, like, horrible flashbacks.
Yeah, so there are actually... I remember when Saving Private Ryan came out, and there were actually a bunch of, like, public... mostly people in Hollywood. It was mostly, like, actors and directors and things like that. That were actually in World War II that commended Steven Spielberg for portraying D-Day so accurately. One of those actors was James Doohan, who played Scotty in the Star Trek movies. Because he lost his, I want to say...
2 fingers.
2 or 3 fingers, yeah. During D-Day, like in World War II, he was there, and he was one of the people who like publicly said thank you for doing that, thank you for portraying that the way that it was, because people needed to know just how awful it was. Which kind of leads me to another thing that I want to like touch on about war fiction, and that's that like the point of war fiction is not to glorify war, but for the most part to tell you about how terrible it is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like. There are some people that I've talked to that just don't want to see war movies. They're just like, I can't watch war movies because why would you want to see that? Well, it's not that you're supposed to be watching really cool, gung-ho, light-em-up action movies. It's to show you the horrors of war. You know what I mean?
And something else that I think Saving Private Ryan did really well was that it...
Oh, that's a guy. Oh, you just got exploded.
I thought my area was clear. It was one of the first where they used realistic military tactics versus just drama.
Versus just like generic stage directions.
Well, I mean, yeah, and you know they always use real terms, but then what they do on screen would be very different.
Yeah, that's because the people who block a scene are not necessarily like actually like veterans and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There were some movies that actually tried to make a point of. It was mostly during the 90s, I think, that they were like, why don't we actually get.
Did it really take me this far back?
I guess.
Or did I just go a different route?
Oh, I think you're on a different route. Yeah, because you were being shot at from this turret.
Yeah, sure.
Whew.
Hey,
Thanks
for showing up, Dom.
Oh shoot! What was I just saying? What the hell was
they're
I just
using
saying?
real tactics.
Yeah. So, what's the word that I'm looking for though? Consultants. It was around like the 80s and the 90s that they started to get consultants on set to be like, let's depict this realistically. One of the earliest examples of that was depicting boot camp in World War or in the Vietnam War. Can you guess what film I'm talking about?
Full Metal Jacket.
Classic. Yeah, Arlie Ermey was originally just a consultant for the movie. He wasn't supposed to be like the actual sergeant. And I guess when he was originally not given the part, Stanley Kubrick was just like, no, you're a consultant. You're not an actor. Like, we just need you to be here to provide, realistic information for us. And he was like, but I really want to be on screen. I feel like I can sell this. And you were the one who told me the story about how he actually got the acting job. What was that?
If I recall correctly, he just went into like such a tirade showing the actor how he needed to behave, and it was so impressive that Stanley Kubrick realized the other guy was just never going to be able to replicate that.
Yeah.
I might be wrong on that because it's been a while.
I feel like you had told me, and I think this was years ago, because we've known each other for a long time now, almost 10 years. Did you think about that? Wow. Yeah, we're a bunch of old men now. Anyway, I think you were the one that told me that I guess what he did was he actually, just on his own time, got somebody to film him just doing a tirade against a bunch of squatties, a bunch of recruits, where he was just like, I'm going to show Stanley Kubrick, so he just filmed him giving a tirade against a bunch of recruits while a bunch of people in a crowd were trying to mess him up. But he stayed in character and he kept lobbing insult after insult and just weird, creatively said things to all of these recruits, and that's how he got the job.
Yeah, and he never repeated himself.
Yeah.
Another fun fact, some of you will know a line, I'm not going to say it, so he doesn't have to edit it out, but you seem like the kind of guy that would
blink another man in his lower back.
And not even have the common courtesy to give him a blank. This line made him actually stop filming Stanley Kubrick stopped filming to ask what that last blank was, because Stanley Kubrick had never heard the term.
It's fine. It's not a cuss word, so we'll just say it. It was reach around.
Yeah.
Parents or kids, ask your parents. So, he was like, you look like the kind of man that would blink another man in his lower back and not even have the gosh darn common courtesy to give him a reach around. And yeah, I guess Stanley Kubrick had to be like, cut.
What is that?
And I guess people didn't really want to tell him or anything like that because they didn't want to,
No, I think Arlie Ermey had no problem telling him.
Yeah, that was the thing, was that nobody wanted to say anything, and after a pause, Arlie Ermey was just like, it's when you... And then it explained it, and Stanley Kubrick was just like, oh.
Where is this guy?
I think he's behind you to your left.
Well, no, my gear is shooting at this wall. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Did he glitch off the map or
I don't know. Is he around the corner there? I mean, there's a door there. Behind you now. Well, I guess... Oh. Yeah, there's a guy behind that door. You can get there by going around, by going to the right.
Yeah, it doesn't open the side.
Yeah.
Huh. Why is my idiot shooting over there then?
Well, because you can get there from there.
No, but he's like...
There we go. There he is. Hey, buddy. Ow. Take cover. Whew.
Idiot teammates. You shoot at him when he's hiding in a house, but when he comes out to play, you won't shoot at him.
Anyway, yeah, Full Metal Jacket is another very, very iconic war film, I feel like, when it comes to the depiction of the Vietnam War.
The first half, I think, is iconic for how people were trained. Mm-hmm. I do think it's just a generic, almost forgettable second half. Okay, so I'm going to partially agree and disagree. On one hand, yes, it's very much a war is hell kind of thing. Like that's the ultimate motto of the second half of Vietnam or of Full Metal Jacket, because the whole thing was that, like, you know, when they're being pecked off by that sniper off screen and, like, they can't see him and it's, like, really horrifying, they're like, oh, it's going to be, like, some trained super soldier. And no, it was just, like, a young woman who was probably, like, a mother that was just trying to, like, defend her village. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that, like, kind of put into perspective just, like, how terrible they all were and how America really had no place in Vietnam. So, I mean, like... But that's the thing, is that has been told so many times that, like, there's really not a lot of reason to continue to elaborate on that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But, you know, that being said, it was still very well made. You know? Yeah, it was very well made. But it's one of those, like, if you ain't first, you might as well not make it. Yeah, and maybe it was first. I definitely have not seen the Vietnam, you know, movies as they came out. Yeah, well, that's the thing, was that, like, you know, again, at this point, Apocalypse Now had already come out. You know, Apocalypse Now was the 70s. Full Metal Jacket was like 1985. Yeah, I think it was 87, and I think Platoon had come out the year before. Yeah, so the whole, like... So, like, the truly iconic ones had already come out. Yeah. And it was trying to tell a story we'd already seen. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I do agree that the first half is the ultimately more memorable part, but the second part is another, you know, the second half of Full Metal Jacket. Oh, it's nothing to be ashamed of as a director or an actor. Yeah, just as a piece of film, it's still very iconic and still very good. Yeah, I'm just not sure we would even be talking about it if it wasn't for that first half. Exactly. People remember Full Metal Jacket for the first half, and I just feel like it's worth, you know, kind of just pointing out that, like, no, the second half is good too. You just don't remember it as clearly, or it's just not as important because of all of these other things that already happened. But yeah, Full Metal Jacket. What about other, like, Vietnam War movies? I haven't actually seen a lot. I'm not a huge fan of Apocalypse Now. Really? To be honest. Like, I get why it's kind of like 2001: Space Odyssey for me. Like, I get it. It's a good movie. Yeah. I don't really care for it. Yeah. I do think it's a testament to how childish Brando was. Oh, yeah, because, like, he just didn't want to show up on set the way that he was supposed to, and he didn't even bother to memorize his lines. Yeah, he was just like... always did. And yeah. To this day, I don't know why people continue to work with him. Well, like... Well, I don't know. He was, like, the biggest actor ever at the time. So, you know, for anyone to be given the opportunity to work with Marlon Brando, it was kind of like a yes, because this is going to be an absolute honor to me and is going to absolutely skyrocket the performance of this movie. You know what I mean? I think that's why people continue to work with him. But, well, and, like, Marlon Brando had done weird things even before then. Like, I forget the movie... But he had actually won an Academy Award for some movie, and he refused the award. Like, he didn't go to the ceremony, and even when they tried to, like, drop it off to him at his house, he was like, no, I don't want that, take it back. And so, like, ever since then, the Academy was just like, well, then no, we're not going to honor you with anything ever again. But it was because, like, the Academy had... where are they? I think they're below that balcony. All these wretches. That's what they're called, right? Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think that it was because, if I recall correctly, he was upset with how the Academy was snubbing a bunch of, like, Native American cultures. And I guess, like, he was directly related to them or something like that, or something. And he was like, no, I don't like what you guys are doing, so I want no part of your award. Again, I might be misremembering that. You might want to fact check. But, yeah, there was a thing. He was honored with an Academy Award, and he refused it because he didn't like what the Academy was doing. And that kind of, like, you know, harkens forward to, you know, the whole Oscar so white thing. Yeah. A similar kind of thing. I will say that I think Apocalypse Now, the director's cut actually took away from the movie. Like, I like the original cut more. Yeah. There's some movies where I feel that way. I mean... Because this added a substantial amount. I think it was like 40 extra minutes. Yeah. and none of it really added value to the movie.
Really? It's been a long time. I think the last time I saw Apocalypse Now was probably when I watched it with my dad for the first time, like in 2007.
Now, one of my favorite things about Apocalypse Now is when they spoof it in Hot Shots Part 2. And they have him, Martin Sheen, who was in Apocalypse Now, and Charlie Sheen, who was in Platoon.
Yeah.
And as they pass on a gunboat, they yell, "I loved you in Wall Street."
Yeah, because they were both in Wall Street.
Yeah.
I forgot about Hot Shot. You know what? We didn't actually write down on our list here any of these comedy war movies. Because, we were talking about how, like, war is never a joke and it should never be glorified. But, like, there are some parody movies that actually make fun of war movies relatively well. One of which was Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part 2. Part 2, whatever.
Yeah. Get right.
The other one was Tropic Thunder, which I feel like is less about a war movie, about like war, and is more about Hollywood in general. But like, yeah, the like shaping of the movie is built around like a fictional, war thing.
Making a movie about a fake book about a war.
Yeah. It definitely helped that it wasn't based on like a real event. Other than like generically speaking, the Vietnam War.
I'm actually surprised they didn't make up a fake war for that. Just, like Grand Theft Auto has their Australian-American War that they use for war references.
What? No, I didn't know that was the thing.
Oh yeah, there's like a call-in radio show, and a guy calls in saying he was like traumatized in the Australian-American War. Like they'd send a kangaroo hopping into camp, take out 10 guys.
That sounds very Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, and then the announcers like pretend like they don't know what it is. But in the game, at least in Grand Theft Auto 3, there actually is an Australian-American War Memorial.
Wow. All right.
But something to go back to Vietnam movies, like I touched a little bit on Platoon. Mm-hmm. I really like Platoon. I think that almost epitomizes the squad-based movie better than anything.
Tell me about Platoon, because, sorry bro, but I have not seen it.
I mean, it's your standard Platoon. I mean, like, squad-based guys. You know, you got the grizzled veterans who pick through the guys' pack, like, hey, you don't need this, you don't need this.
Yeah.
Dr. Cox from...
there are a lot of big-name actors in that movie, right?
And Charlie Sheen plays the young kid who was dumb enough to actually enlist instead of get drafted.
Okay.
And, there's some shady stuff going on, like, people doing wrong things, and, like...
That's the Vietnam War, so.
And I think it was different than, like, Platoon, or Apocalypse Now, where, like, Charlie Sheen's character, or Martin Sheen's character was inherently, like, trying to do a good thing.
Yeah.
And these guys are just trying to, like, get out alive.
Okay, yeah. What exactly is the plot of it? Or is it just like a Vietnam War movie, so it's just about a bunch of Americans being at war in Vietnam?
Pretty much that.
Okay, so there's no central...
I'm pretty sure they're part of a big Vietnam battle, but that isn't the important thing.
Yeah.
It's like their journey and their interactions and how, like... it's been a while since I've seen it, but I think there's a part where, like, some of the guys are going to rape 2 women. Uh-huh. And, like, Charlie Sheen's character is, like, all like, no.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know what? That's actually an interesting thing. You've not really read any Punisher comics, have you?
No.
You've seen, like, the John Travolta movie.
Yeah.
And then, like, Punisher Warzone, I think you saw at least once, right? Maybe.
I started it. I don't think I finished it.
Fair enough. That's okay. But the Punisher origin story, and I believe it was called Punisher Born, was very, very good. I really, really liked it a lot. I actually found it at Half Price Books the other day, so or like 3 months ago. so I picked it up.
Today, the other day.
Today, 3 months ago, it's the same thing. But at one point in the whole thing is that Frank Castle is like the captain, sergeant, whatever, of this like platoon, this like squad of, a dozen, 2 dozen guys or whatever. And the whole thing is that he's such a good squad leader and so good at war that he hasn't lost a single man in his thing, right? So that's the thing, is that he's very, very disciplined, and he understands war, and he's very professional about it. At one point in the story, they're like traveling through the jungle or something like that, and I think one of the guys steps on a mine and it like kills him, and it's like the first casualty that they suffer. And they find the Vietnamese woman that had laid the mine, and she of course was like fighting for her life. Very, very Full Metal Jacket, like we were talking about earlier. Eventually, two of the squad members like get the jump on her, and they like pin her down. And one of the guys is like, "I will take this," and like starts to rape her basically. And Castle just like shows up, shoots the woman point blank in the head with him right on top of her, and then he goes, "We're here to kill the enemy, nothing else." And then just like left that guy to sit there with a dead body underneath him. And it was kind of like, that's the thing, was that the Punisher is not about like
justice.
Yeah.
Or his version of justice.
Yeah. Which, at that point he was just a war veteran. He was such a professional at war that he would not allow things like that to happen. And it was just an interesting like kind of moment. And I don't think I've seen that happen where like, I mean, it's probably happened before, but where in the Vietnam War, somebody is like raping a Viet Cong soldier, and then like the captain or whoever just shows up, shoots her in the head, and goes, "No, don't do that."
Yeah.
Anyway, Punisher is another thing that I'm rather passionate about. The Punisher TV show is very, very good, and is a good show that taps into the post-traumatic stress of being a veteran in war. Very kind of boring show in the first like half of the season, but really catches up later on. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling on here. What else about Vietnam War stuff?
Honestly, I think that kind of covers the ones that I would like consider like squad based that I've seen at least.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to get back to, because we talked about Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
And a show and then turned into a series that only exists because of Saving Private Ryan is Band of Brothers, which to me is actually one of the best stories about war ever, because you really did get to see this squad at Easy Company, 101st Airborne Division. You get to see them training, and you get to see them during all the various battles they were in, and you get to see them after the war's over. And their story was so spectacular that they changed some details for artistic license, obviously.
But real quick, correct me if I'm wrong. Band of Brothers is based on a true story, right?
Yeah,
like it's based on real events and real soldiers.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And they took a little bit of artistic license, but inherently, it's the real story. And it's so spectacular that it's hard to believe some of the things that this one squad did.
Yeah.
Or this one company did.
Yeah.
And like they don't really hold anything back. There's a scene in the second episode where a guy executes these German soldiers. Very much like in Saving Private Ryan, you see them execute the Czech soldiers who are fighting. They surrender, but then the Americans execute them because they don't understand Czech. And
I don't actually remember that, but it's been a long time since I've seen Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, it's these Czech soldiers who are like, they throw down their guns and like, hey, we were drafted, we didn't actually want to fight. But so in Saving Private Ryan, it's this group of American Germans whose parents had returned to the fatherland when the Fuhrer asked them to.
Okay.
And so this guy was from like Eugene, Oregon, and one of the men in Easy Company was from Oregon.
Okay.
So these guys live like 30 miles from each other, and they kind of strike up a bit of a conversation. And then he has to skedaddle and get back to his job of killing Nazis.
Okay.
And then somebody from Dog Company executes them.
Okay.
And I mean, it's clear as day that that's what happens. And they don't hide from this fact. The simple fact of the matter is nobody cared all that much. They were the enemy. The fact that he was fighting for the Nazis. The fact that he used to live in Oregon didn't matter. So they tell a really spectacular story, and they don't hide from the realities of the situation. And I think that is what makes Band of Brothers so amazing. And then they did a follow-up to it based in the Pacific called, The Pacific.
Yeah, I remember that. That was the one that was not as well received, right?
It wasn't as well received, but it still was very enjoyable.
Yeah.
There's somebody behind me.
I don't think there's anybody behind you. You just keep getting pecked at from the balconies across from you.
Yeah. This guy will not die.
Yeah, I feel like
you're hit him with 2 grenades.
I think, the first grenade was way too short, and I think the second grenade was also pretty short. Oh, there you go. That'll get behind him. There you go. There you go. Yeah, that did it. All right. This is reminding me of a lot of different things about this game. It's been a long time since I've looked at this. You and I have had many a nights playing Gears of War, haven't we?
Yep.
With other World War II stuff, there was some other thing. Oh, you know what? You were talking about things that were just unbelievable that they had to do some artistic licensing for to do some stuff. You remember Hacksaw Ridge? It was
I have not seen that.
The Clint Eastwood movie from last year or the year before.
I have not seen it.
Not Clint Eastwood, Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson did it. I haven't seen it either. But apparently Mel Gibson was talking to Stephen Colbert once about some of the things that they actually had to take out of the movie because they thought that people weren't going to believe it. And I guess the example that he gave was that it's on record and publicly known that this guy who was this pacifist in the war, he threw himself down on top of a grenade in order to save his squad. But I guess after he did that too, he was being carted away for treatment or whatever. And I guess while he was still on the stretcher with part of his arm or his leg just completely blown off or something like that, there was somebody else that one of his other squad mates or whoever that was also dying or bleeding out or something like that. And as he was being taken away, he was like, stop, turn around. And the guys put the stretcher down so that he could get off the stretcher, help the guy that was dying, and then was like, all right, now take me away. And I guess they didn't put that in the movie because they thought it was just going to be too unbelievable. They were like, no, he's not that much of a superhero. But I guess he actually did that, supposedly. Yeah. You know what I mean? Again, I haven't seen the movie or read up about the story of this guy, so I can't really talk about any of it. All I know is that, again, he was a combat medic who was a pacifist during the war. He was a Catholic because, of course, it was a Mel Gibson movie, blah, blah, blah. I think that's about it for World War II stuff. I kind of want to move on to modern war things. Yeah, because sure. we have not touched on that really at all. Modern war movie that I found to be exquisite, absolutely exquisite. Really, really good. Lone Survivor.
Oh, yeah, that was amazing. That was another movie where they had to tone down what actually happened because it was almost too unbelievable. Mm-hmm. I think in the movie he drags himself with some...
It was 3 days, right?
In real life it was 3 days. I think it was just a night in the movie. Yeah. And he was much more hurt in real life than he was in the movie.
Yeah. I remember hearing, hey guy.
I think he was paralyzed completely.
Really?
In real life.
You mean paralyzed from the waist down or something?
Yeah.
Okay, so he literally had to drag himself?
Yeah, whereas, he's up and walking within a few hours of getting to the settlement in the movie.
One thing that I was kind of surprised by and was very impressed by was the fact that they actually gave credit and fully acknowledged the village that saved his life. Uh-huh. Because, a lot of American movies, they're just oh, yeah, and then he survived because he was an American hard ass.
Yeah, Argo really did a great disservice to the contributions of, the Canadians and the British.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And I guess it was in Lone Survivor, they were like, no, if this, village, full of, pardon my ignorance, does it take place in Iraq or Afghanistan?
Afghanistan.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if these Afghans hadn't helped him or saved his life, he would have died. But the peak moments of that in the movie was when the Al Qaeda or whomever came to the village looking for him, and the villagers were lying to Al Qaeda by being no, he's not here, and by helping him out. He was very confused because he didn't speak the language and he didn't understand what was going on. So when the good guys were dragging him inside the building and were saying Taliban, it was kind of like, oh, yeah. Remember, not everyone in Iraq is a terrible person. You know what I mean? And it was just good that a movie had done that because, like, and this is kind of sad. Not a lot of movies depict that.
Yeah, an unrelated movie to this. If you want another movie that kind of gives credit where credit's due and deals with like Middle Eastern war efforts, Body of Lies. But I'm just gonna leave that there.
I remember hearing about that movie, but I have not seen it.
It's on Netflix. I'd check it out.
Yeah. I remember it didn't get panned. It just got like kind of.
It was like the first not critical success for DiCaprio in like 7 years.
Yeah,
so
people were expecting something from like DiCaprio and Russell Crowe, and then it was like, meh.
Yeah, it wasn't anything special. Whereas like the last 6 DiCaprio movies had been something special.
Yeah. I remember seeing trailers for that, and I remember it got really hyped up, and then it was just kind of like, meh.
One reason I like it is like in a lot of movies like The Kingdom and whatnot, the Americans know how to fight terrorism. Nobody in the Middle East does, and they're all idiots that are just in the way. This movie, despite definite whitewashing, Mark Strong plays Jordanian, I believe. And
Mark Strong has been drafted into doing that multiple times because the dude already has like kind of a dark complection,
and he's good with accents.
Yeah, so they're just kind of like, who's a good established actor? Mark Strong. Okay, yeah, sure. He's the Prince of Saudi.
Yeah,
which you are right is whitewashing and wrong, but. Yeah, I think he's had that happen to him a couple of times. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if one of my squad mates could help me. Oh yeah, shoot from the same position I'm shooting, you idiot.
Good job, Baird.
But in it, they're doing espionage stuff, and Mark Strong's the guy who actually, he's got his.
You got a grenade?
Nope.
Ah, dang. You got a pistol? Can you headshot him?
Well, I was kind of counting on my teammates to do something, but I guess
you can zoom in by like clicking on the right stick, right?
Yeah, I just don't think I have like the angle, and that's why like when he's turned, Baird should be shooting him.
Hey, Cole. Is that Cole or is that Dom?
Well, Baird is right there, not doing anything.
There you go. You threw it wrong, Baird. Sorry, it's not funny, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah, I don't have the angle.
Can you just like bum rush him in between bursts? Or would you advise against that?
I'd advise against that.
Careful, you gonna die. Oh, yeah, there we go.
I mean, this game was clearly not designed to deal with the AI, because the AI is completely broken in this game. They fix it a lot for 2.
Yeah.
But the fact that like neither of my teammates was doing anything there, I kind of question why you would even design the AI that way.
Yeah, that was a big problem for a while, and I think a lot of game developers have actually caught on to this since then. But like back in the like mid 2000s, late 2000s, like 2000 to 2010, there was a lot of like every game needs to be co-op. And so, like, games were just built around a co-op narrative like this. But, like, Resident Evil 5 was another classic example. But the thing is, if you're not, if you don't have an actual person controlling that other character, you're just going to die. And it's just not fun. And that kind of sucks. A lot of game developers have been kind of catching on, though, that people really like single-player games again. Oh, that was way easier.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a sniper? From 10 feet away.
But so what other stuff do we got on our list there, Chris?
Well, okay, so we talked about Lone Survivor, Modern War stuff. Hey, why don't we talk about Modern Warfare? Maybe. Call of Duty, Modern Warfare. Really just any of the Call of Duty games, just kind of in general, I guess. Because, like, again, it's hard to talk about war games and not talk about Call of Duty and, like, Battlefield. You know what I mean?
Well, okay, the first Modern Warfare was a great game for a variety of reasons. Level design, weapon selection, story, and also your squad was diversified and relatable.
That's a guy to your immediate left.
Yeah.
Hey!
Once again, silly me thought my squad would do something.
Well, they actually did there, I guess.
Yeah, they just waited. Well, it's like in Firefly.
Yeah.
When Mal gets captured by the one dude, and Zoe is all like, no, Captain needs to do this by himself. No, I don't!
Oh. They all got him down. Oh. Yeah. I was actually thinking about adding Firefly to this list because, like, the background of Firefly is very, very dependent on war drama. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, the whole thing is the, like, resistance going up against the big bad central colonies or whatever.
The Alliance.
Yeah, thank you.
But
some other generic big name corporate anyway.
But so what I was saying with Modern Warfare is like you had a squad and they all had like distinct personalities and they had the natural, interrelationships.
Yeah.
One of the things I think 2 and 3 suffered from was a lot of 3 you didn't even. Where's the propane tank? Oh. A lot of 3 is.
I feel like those should have been like red or some color other than white.
And didn't work. Oh.
Leaking gas pipe.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm shooting it.
Oh, yeah, I was going to actually say, try shooting the truck. There you go. Okay.
But, so you had these distinct personalities and they worked well. And then in 2 and 3, you're jumping between characters so much, and a lot of it you play as like a 1 or 2 person team. Mm-hmm. You don't have that same squad dynamic. Yeah, and it limits your gameplay options.
Yeah, I do think what you were going to for a second there, I do agree with, and that's that especially the second and third one, there was a lot of jumping back and forth between random characters. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like Modern Warfare 1, it was really just 2 characters. You were Soap and that American guy that died. Yeah. You know what I mean? And, like, that was pretty much it. And that was a commitment. They were going to kill him off, and they committed, like, 5 levels to getting you attached to him. Yeah, and in Modern Warfare 2, that was when you played, like, 3 or 4 characters throughout the campaign. You were the one guy that, like, worked underground with the Russians for, like, 1 or 2 missions. Yeah, you were Soap for, like, the ending mission, right? Yeah. And then you were some other, like, SAS officer for a little while, I think. And I think he also died. Yeah, he also died. You play as, 3 people that died in that game. Soap dies, Soap dies in Modern Warfare 3. Okay. I remember that. I remember Soap died. But no, you play as the guy that gets killed by the American general. You play as the astronaut, and then you play as the CIA guy. Yeah. And... the CIA dude, that's the other dude I was thinking of. Okay, sorry. Yeah, like, that's the thing. Like, you'd done it once in the first game, and it had a lot of real impact. Mm-hmm. It didn't have the same impact, especially not for the astronaut who you play all of, 6 seconds as. Yeah, if they were trying to make the astronaut death dramatic, they completely screwed that up. Because as soon as the astronaut dude died, I was like, okay. Yeah. I didn't care at all. And I feel like if they hadn't done that one, and... if they hadn't even done the CIA one, maybe you care a little bit more when, the general kills the guy you were playing as. I remember when, that might have had a little bit of a better effect. I just remember the CIA... I was tired of getting shot in the face, basically. Yeah, the right after, the very end of No Russian, when you get gunned down by the terrorists, it was like, okay... yeah, like, it didn't really have the emotional impact or anything like that, because you only played as that character... for that mission and, 1 mission before then. Yeah. And, it was the end of that mission that was like, all right, we're going to have you go undercover with these Russians. One of the things I think they didn't take into account is the fact that, a lot of people naturally start shooting the civilians in that mission. I actually read an article about how you naturally start doing it. Yes. Okay, so... but you don't feel bad for somebody who just gunned down a bunch of civilians getting shot. Yes. Okay. Also, well, and the other thing, too, is that, they tried... I do genuinely think that Modern Warfare 2... failed at trying to be a shocking thing. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing was that it says something about you as the player if you start shooting all these people, but we all the player knows that we're playing a game and that if you don't shoot, you're kind of expected to shoot the players, and a lot of gamers will just kind of go on with whatever's going on. You're like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to shoot all these people? I don't really know why I would do that. And it doesn't have the same sort of emotional impact as when, say, in Spec Ops: The Line, you are playing as the captain who just starts gunning down the angry mob because you're really mad that your squad mate got killed by them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not nearly the same. Like, you've got the option to either disperse the mob or just shoot them, and you want to shoot them. It's not like Modern Warfare 2 where it's like, okay, I guess this is what I have to do. No, that's the thing that made the Modern Warfare 2 thing just not work. Because again, it was just kind of like, this is just a game. These aren't real people. I'm not invested in this character. I don't understand the reasoning for doing this. This is just not well executed. You don't have the choice, and when you don't have the choice, there's really no reason. There's no shock effect.
Yeah, I still contend they really should have put it. They should have made it really difficult, but they should have made it possible to kill the other bad guys in that mission.
Yeah.
And it'd been like a huge Easter egg. I'm talking like harder than beating the game on veteran though.
Yeah.
Like they have body armor, you don't. You have very limited ammo. Something like really that you could be proud of.
Well, here's the thing though. We're coming up on an hour.
All right, is there anything else that we definitely need to get in before the end of the hour?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's up to you. You want to take a look at that list right there? Let's just pause the game while this is going on.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get shot. A movie I really want to talk about just because I really like it is Black Hawk Down. It's probably my favorite war movie.
That's another good modern war movie.
It's my favorite war movie that's a war movie. And what I mean by that is my favorite war movie is The Great Escape. But a lot of people don't consider that a war movie per se.
I haven't seen that, but I've heard that. I think that a lot of people, when they think of a war movie, they think of like the front lines. They think of the squad. They think of that kind of thing. They don't think of the like prisoner of war stuff.
Oh, okay, there's my answer. Thank God.
I feel like we'll talk about this maybe later on, maybe for another video. But like the Wolfenstein games have fantastic writing, really, really good writing. You still haven't played Wolfenstein 2 like in depth at all, have you?
No, tiny human.
Okay, yeah, that's true. I don't know. We might make a day of doing that or something like that. But I think with Act 5 beginning here, I think that we're going to call it. So thank you everybody for watching. If you want to see more silly videos of me and Gary just hanging out, talking about random stuff and playing some video games and being nerds. Are you trying to play the piano with a chainsaw?
I'm trying to saw through it. You could in the later games.
Oh, could you?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Go ahead and subscribe to this channel and like this video if you want to. Whatever, I'm not your mom. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But thank you again, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next time on Let's Discuss. My name is Chris.
My name's Gary. Have a good day.
Are you about to die? I think you should go out in a blaze of glory here, Gary. Get him. Get that guy. Just run right up to him. Get him! There you go.
What a great way to end the video.
Good night, everyone.